Well, hello folks, I'm LA Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets. We do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves just one question, that is, what happened today? What might it tell us about the coming ones? Do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel LA Little. If you have been following us, for a while, especially this week, it's been pretty much dead. There's not much going on. The market gives back just a little bit today, not much. The S&P was down the most, 0.35. Pretty flat on the NDX, the Russell, and the NASDAQ composite. Overseas, this night they're trading up about 1%. It looks like in the not Japan, but China. You had some ugly candles, and we'll look at those as we go around the boards here tonight on some of these European and actually a few in the Asian. And gold got whacked again, down another percent. That is a direct reflection of what's happening with the dollar. And though I don't have the dollar up here, let me just actually put the dollar up here. The dollar took off again today and pressed higher. And there you see the dollar up almost 1%. So, interesting mix. You had strength overseas, but then they had some ugly candles, and then you had the same sort of hang here that's been going on before. You get a day or two of hang, and then you see the market press higher. Let's take a look at the charts, and we'll start with the dollar. You had Yellen on the hill today. You had 2 other speakers, Fisher and Dudley, out. You got like 4 more tomorrow, 4 more the next day. There's a slew of them this week. This is the week that they come out, after last week's meeting, and they try to emphasize whatever it is they want to emphasize. And it looks like from Yellen's comments today, they are trying to tell us that the rates are going to rise in December. Dollar takes off on that news. You had a little volume pickup in it as it goes over the top. If you pull it back, it's coming after these swing point highs here now. And so you got a push taking place in the dollar, pushing for the swing point highs in these areas, right? So that's right across there, and it's not that far from there. It looks to me like it's going to try to get into that area by the time we get that employment number on Friday. And that employment number may spike this thing on up, and it may go after these highs. And if it does, believe me, this market's going to feel it. Because so far, this market has been living with a consolidation right down below these highs for some period of time now. If that actually does change, then the behavior of the market probably will change with it. If you look at the other side of that equation, which is the euro and the yen and some of the other currencies, if we pop over there, you can see the euro breaks down today just like the dollar broke out. If you bring it here, it's coming after the swing point low. Number there is 106.27. If you get under that area, folks, then you're going towards the lows again. There's nothing in between. And if you pop over to the yen's been hanging on to these swing point lows. Well, it gave it up today. I think it closed under 79.81, had a little rally at the end, 79.79, so just barely up underneath. So it's still struggling to get under this convincingly. We'll see if the dollar pushes higher. If it does the next couple of days, then this yen is going to start to drop again. And if you look at it, right, you actually have the setup now for the yen to actually make another run. And so you could get that push down towards the lows down here if it in fact does start to extend. So that's the yen, that's the dollar. That is the story on what's happening with that. And of course, that is pushing world markets. And if we go over and look at the world markets, last night we had some pretty good runs higher, and then some ugly closes. For example, if I look at Australia, we thought it would move higher. It did, and then it gave it all up at the end and came crashing back down. If you look at, if we go over to Europe, for example, and look at the CACs, CACs the same sort of thing. Had a nice push up. It looked like it was, really rocking and rolling, and then gives it all up and almost closes underneath that high. Didn't have the volume, just got over it. That actually looks like it's going to try to pull back more. And if we look at the DAX actually had a little bit more volume than it did on that prior high a couple days back. but it just came down and really couldn't get going. Now it's coming back into this bar. That top is 108.47. We're at 108.45. Tomorrow will be kind of a critical day, because if you get into it, right, then you can come back down into this gap area. So I think the DAX, if you're looking for something to watch, is the place to watch in Europe, because if you get into this bar tomorrow and stay into it, I suspect you're going to go after that gap on the next move. And that's kind of contrary to what you would expect with the yen, not the yen, but the euro selling down, because that makes that puts some juice into the overseas markets and the European markets in particular. If you look at the Asian, you had the same sort of thing on the Nikkei, right? The Nikkei pushed up, has an ugly candle on the way back, and you did get higher push on Hong Kong, but even there it gave some up at the top. It had some good volume on it, but gave it up at the top. So tonight will be a good night to watch these, because now you're starting, I think Asia is the ones that most at risk, the emerging markets in general. And if you look at what's happening in the dollar, and the dollar pushing up, that does go against these markets and makes it harder for them to continue their runs to the top side. If we go over to our markets, the U.S. markets, and look at the general markets, it was another day of hang. We've seen this before. Let's pull up the S&P 500. And what you basically have here is, each time you've had this, we've talked about this several times, each time you've had this kind of hang take place, right, the next thing you know, you get a nice big spike out of it to the upside, like here, like there. You had some hang here and then another spike up. Well, you got hang again. And you're coming into what's going to be an important number on the employment number that comes out on Friday. If we pull it over to the weekly, they're still hanging up here at the highs, right? It got as high as 21.16. It's at 21.02 now, so you got a little spike up there towards the high. You pull back a little bit. The number it's trying to stay over is the breakdown bar on the weekly. That's 21.0347, and you're at 21.02, so you're just up underneath it right now. That's the S&P. If you look at what is weak, it's the Russell. The Russell twice now has failed on this swing point high, doesn't have the volume. Russell looks like it's finally going to try to turn and roll. But if you look elsewhere, like the NDX, for example, NDX goes over, back under, but it has slightly more volume, which says it can try it again tomorrow. And so if we look at just the indexes on the U.S. markets, we're not seeing any evidence yet that they're going to turn. If you turn and look at the major sectors inside the market, there's really not much there suggesting any kind of a turn yet either. There's one notable, and that's the discretionary. Discretionary goes over after an extended run, over, under. That looks like that one's going to try to come in. But man, there's just not much else. If you look elsewhere, well, there's one other one, and this one is a little bit, kind of questionable. You got up underneath this bar. This bar had 13.5 on it, and you do 8. So you don't do much volume as you come back, but you did get up under this swing point low, swing point high, I mean. And so that's a bullish retest and trying to regenerate and go higher, but rather than go higher, it closes up underneath it. If you get another bar down here tomorrow, then that probably pretty much says, okay, that's not going to hold, and we're probably going to head back down the other way, or at least continue to head down the other way, and then we'll have to come back to the next swing points or the next level points, which looks like it's back in this 48.62 area. So a couple sectors showing some difficulty, but you get outside of that, they're all just hanging. They're all hanging up there at the highs, doing the same thing. So when you put it all together, the question is has this market priced in a Fed hike in the rates in December? Because right now it looks to me like the Fed is determined to try and tell us that's what it's going to do. So is this market already pricing in a rate hike? Does it see it as good? I mean, that's how Yellen has to sell it, right? She's got to tell us that when she hikes rate, it's for our own good, that we're so strong that we should be able to handle it, right? And this market has definitely had one heck of a run on the upside. if this is how you price in a rate hike, then this thing ought to go vertical when it's announced, because it's been nothing but good as it priced it in. So I guess it ought to be extremely good when it happens. Of course, I'm tongue in cheek there, but market's extended, folks. It's up here. The trader sense in me tells me that this thing's going to turn and you're going to get a retrace. And maybe it's going to be the employment number that does it. Maybe the dollar is going to spike on that employment number, and that's going to be what trips this thing up. But you can tell just the feel of it is that you're getting close enough. Technically, you don't have hardly anything out there. You got some ugly closes overseas. That's probably due to the dollar. And then you've got a few little signals here and there, just like we've had the last couple of days. But there's still nothing even in the indexes other than the Russell now 2 days in a row failing that high. Outside of that, there's not much to hang your hat on if you're looking for a pullback or if you're trying to short this market. Trader sense in me tells me you're probably going to get what you want if that's what you're trying to do. But that's the trader sense in me. That's not a technical signal. I'll leave it at that. That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me as always. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. We got 4 more speakers tomorrow. We'll see how they echo what was echoed today, which is a December rate hike, and see if the market prices it in or if it already has. Good night, folks.